Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video is a bit of a mind bender. It's around DNA genomes and its link with blockchain's utility, and how we're going to be looking at a significantly gigantic market over the next 5-10 years and beyond. A bit of a background situation here as to why this has come about. I guess probably for many years, like maybe a couple of decades now, I've always had an interest in technological advancements, and even when I was like 12 or so, I was writing down on Word documents about nanotechnology and stuff like that. Bit of a nerd as a child, I guess, but as growing up and seeing these developments, these advancements, and understanding a bit more, especially things like when AI and blockchain came into my world of work and everything, probably like nearly 10 years ago now, I started to sort of piece together how this can all really enhance the world to an extent. It have some negativity aspects to it as well, but there's that element of it. But equally, on the other hand, is meeting random people in random times, in random situations. So a bit of context, my other half and I, we were kayaking around the Solent yesterday. Very nice afternoon, evening before the tide caught us a bit. But we packed everything up, went back to the car, because we only live down the road from there anyway. And this guy who was, turned out to be 67, fit as a fiddle. He was doing pull-ups on, like in the car park, you have the big barriers around the edge to stop big lorries or vans going through, height restrictions. He was doing pull-ups from there, and he clocked my other half, who's quite athletic build, has been obviously going through cancer treatment and stuff for the last couple of years, but come out the other end, and he noticed, he made a compliment towards that, that physique side of it, and it was reciprocated, and I was obviously standing there, as I do, and I was, he was like, oh, so, where are you guys from, blah, blah, and anyway, he started waffling on about health and fitness and stuff, and then he started talking randomly, like really randomly, about genome analysis, and I was like, well, I'm very familiar with the hormone blood tests that you can get. We've got a centre down here, a clinic that you can get specific blood tests that you can't get on the NHS. You pay like 200-300 quid for them, and it will tell you anything and everything pretty much about the markers in your body. Doesn't go through the DNA, but that's where I'll come on to the conversation about genomes, and then obviously linking that to digital ID and blockchain in a second. But sorry about the story time. He started talking about his treatments that he had over the last couple of years, and he took it into his own hands to learn about from a molecular level as to why this may have happened, what were the deformities, the manipulations of his DNA or his cells to create the cancer in the first place. Because I did similar things or similar research when the other half was going through stuff, as you always do, and we found some very interesting critical information that helped us to try and avoid certain therapies and whatnot. And DNA, there's two levels, guys. We'll pull back to the blockchain in a minute, but there's basically two levels of genome analysis. There's a 30 times and 100 times. And what this means is it runs it through the system either 30 times or 100 times. There's some other variables. The 100 times one is the most accurate one I think you can get to date. This makes sure, I think, that you have a reliability of it. It's basically 0.002% or something that it could be wrong. I mean, that's crazy, right? So it's all but like 99 point whatever percent accurate. And it will go into anything and everything you can possibly think of about your body, the elements of the organs, the way we're built, the way or reasoning why we think certain ways or can't digest certain things, or we're sensitive to this or touch or certain foods, and all of these things that you could, maybe not even fathom in your head, that you think or don't think that you could actually understand a bit more of. it takes it to another level. And I came across this a few years back via the NHS, the health service here in the UK, when they started doing the 100,000, I think it was 100,000 people, the genome analysis. They take people or volunteers' blood, like they did with mine, and they start building a database. What we do with this, we'll talk again about in a minute, because it does heavily relate to blockchain's utilization in the near future. But going back to that point about genomes, this could save people's lives from even before they are born, to indicate the potential scales of what you may or may not get throughout your life, or the discrepancies in your DNA that we need to try and fix, or find out specific plans, whether it's dietary, medicines, personalized medicine, rather than just taking what you're given, which is another completely different topic, guys, like how much money is spent on contracts and pharmaceutical protocols. Like the UK, for example, the NHS is run by the government, albeit kind of tax funded to an extent. The regulators behind what drugs are used and not used is by the government, albeit through another terminology of company that they are using, or an organization name. And then the regulators of that, or the ones that decide the costs or how much they want to pay for each of these things, is the government as well. It's quite bizarre, really, that this whole system is based on not individual requirement, but what's better for the economy. And that's crazy, because I think if you look at it in a different way, you could say, well, actually, we would save more money if everyone had a specific plan, because that person then wouldn't use the medical facilities as much, or requirement for them, and thus potentially reducing taxes. But why on earth would they want to do that? And why on earth would they want to lose all the contracts and the money involved? But looping that back to genome is exactly the same principle of them trying to obtain information. So that was the NHS. There's loads of private companies now that are coming out of the woodwork to bring this solution to anyone and everyone. The prices vary. They could be a few £100 for the minimal ones, all the way up to around about £1,000 for the ones I'm talking about here in like the 100x. Now, let's say, for example, you have obtained your kit to have a look at your DNA structure, the whole entire report. At this moment in time, there are some companies out there. So, for example, Genomics.io, Genobank, there's loads of them now, guys. These guys actually utilize blockchain to hold this DNA information, right? Now, blockchain, just to recap, is very much focused on processing, validating, and ensuring from a smart contract perspective that we have the ability to provide approval for our data or information, or a transaction to occur. In this moment in time, a lot of our information, whether it's health or data, whatever it is shared with a lot of companies. Maybe in the small print we've accepted these at some point and it just happens. But we don't see the monetary value of that. We don't see the privacy aspect of where has my information actually really gone? How far has it gone out of my remit? And usually, without surprise, to be honest, it's gone a long way. It's got to a lot of companies, and they'll be using that for research abilities or targeted advertising, whatever it might be. Okay. Now, with DNA, it's very similar. A lot of research purposes would require people's DNA structures or reporting or information from DNA to get a better understanding of maybe creating a specific medicine, or utilizing demographic information as to what we could target with advertising, with pharmaceutical contracts and things like this. I mean, it's absolutely gigantic, the possibilities here of what is possible to be done with our information, and now at a DNA level. So I'm going to loop back to the point here really quickly about the monetary value and blockchain's infrastructure abilities here in that process. So at this moment in time, right, the forecasting for genomic data or management market is estimated around $40 million a few years ago. Okay, it's projected by 2028 to reach or just over $2 billion. That's phenomenal. That's a 65 or so % off the top of my head. don't know the exact math, but it's at least 65%, right, of a CAGR, which is phenomenal. The projections, more recently that I've been doing the research on, do state between sort of 2.6 billion, 2.06 billion and 2.07 billion. So that's give you a bit more of an accuracy towards that number. So it's still around 64%. Now, with that monetary value, within that is what it means to us. Okay, so yes, $2 billion by 2028 is a market value. This, guys, by 2032 can easily be up to around 200 to 250 billion dollars worth of a market. Now that is phenomenal. Now that's the genome market. Of course, blockchain has its own market dependency and like the valuation of it as such. And one in particular used as a chain is Ethereum. I don't really talk about Ethereum too much, to be honest, on the channel. I can't remember the last video I did on Ethereum. Ethereum I hold dearly in my heart because it's the first crypto asset that I purchased. And it's the one that led me on a journey to understand and find out what really blockchain was as a technology. What are we really going to be utilizing it for? Hence why I did my diploma in blockchain cryptography, and with my analysis and career path utilizing AI for many years, I started piecing it all together. So when we talk about the aspect of blockchain's capabilities in terms of transactions per second, the smart contracts, all those kind of things, we can start seeing a bit of a pattern here as to why perhaps Ethereum was being used. Well, it's a mature smart contract ecosystem for sure. It's decentralized, so there's no centralization to it to an extent at this moment in time. You've got things like, of course, the ability of Ethereum being so stable. I think that's a really key point to make here. But transactions per second is one thing. Now you could say, oh, well, why Ethereum? Because Ethereum doesn't have as many transactions per second as possible as maybe some other ones, right? Well, yes, that is absolutely a key point to make here. But equally, there are loads of others that are faster that can hold more transactions per second. So, for example, I think Solana goes up to 65,000 per second. Avalanche 4.5. Cosmos is variable, of course, in the hundreds of thousands potentially. Polygon has its own remits to that as well. Ethereum is not the fastest. I think its current mainnet, I may be wrong here, but it's around about it's quite minimal transactions per second compared to some of the other chains out there. But sometimes when you're talking about like the ability of capturing data, holding data at a really strong, consistent level, Ethereum is the one, and that's why pretty much most blockchains are built on Ethereum anyway. So when we're looking at the aspect of what's possible, where we think about like every patient's medical file, for example, where we think about potentially our information being sold to other companies, we can now be able to track this moving forwards. And it means that we can get some monetary value out of it. Now, that monetary value, it's up in the air at the moment, to be honest. However, just to give you an explanation maybe to the monetary value to you as a person in the near future, and take this with a pinch of salt, it could be adjusted a fair amount, of course. But if you've got, say, the full 100 times genome, i.e. it's been run through the system 100 times, and it's gone into your data system, and you want to be selling some of this information, so like maybe basic research could be purchasing this off you for like 20 to 200 pounds, whatever that is in dollars. Rare disease studies, for example, can be, privatization money in these areas, by the way, is phenomenal. So you think these numbers are quite high. Well, actually, they're kind of like pocket money to some of these private companies, right? Rare disease studies could be up to 5,000, maybe even beyond that. Exclusive first access rights could be 10,000 or beyond. Now, imagine if your DNA is coming up with something quite rare or something that's been triggered, maybe perhaps by AI analysis, where it's looked at a multitude of people's different data and DNA, and they want to look further into that part of your DNA structure or information that's in the data realm. They can pay more money for it. Maybe even you could put a price on it. But I'd like to think that most people in this situation, yes, there should be a balance, of course, of the money value that it is to you, because I think the world is becoming a bit more desperate than it was before. So I understand that a lot of people will hold out maybe for more money, or it might become a standardized process in terms of the pricing structure that it may be. But I'd like to think that a lot of people also want to help mankind, like humankind, to see what we could do to help more and more people in the future, not just those now, but those for the next generations as well, to find things out early. And it equally works for you as a person as well, because a lot of these companies, they gather the data, they hold the data, but as part of that sharing mechanism, it could be because of all the other information out there, all the more and more people that do this, the more data we have to be able to potentially fix you as a person, me as an individual, for example. And I think that's unbelievably fantastic. So we can see in the form of our DNA being perhaps structured as a physical NFT or an NFT in general, our data rights are incorporated in that through the ERC20 tokens, or the tokens of chains that will eventually hopefully cotton on to this ability of DNA capturing and DNA structure within blockchain. And it would really take blockchain, in my opinion, to a whole new level. And we talked about this in many videos. Like, blockchain can associate itself to so many sectors, if not all sectors around the world right now, if it wanted to. It's just a question of having the right people there in your companies, or to be able to facilitate that. It's the same with AI. Onboarding that, and how do you use it to your advantage? If you think about like Dante Labs, for example, this is a kind of similar to these ones. Dante Labs is I think it's UK based. May have some European offices, I'm not sure, but they use the platform of the WGS, which is, I believe, the 100 times one. They use workflows with AI powered reporting, so it can take that raw data and transform that into a plan. And you can run it through 2 or 3 AI models if you want to, for further clarity. This is what the guy was talking about to me yesterday, because I was like, I didn't even comprehend this. I knew AI deep learning could be used to analyze images of X-rays or MRIs and things, and work collectively with other data in those realms. But that's visual. Imagine that with DNA, and more people do. Imagine with 100,000 people in the UK that are doing the genome thing like I am now, but multiply that significantly to be trying to evaluate that with everyone and anyone across the world. Imagine when you are born. I'm assuming there'll have to be some terms and conditions, or like authorization to provide your DNA. Maybe laws will change, who knows? But let's say you get to a certain age and you're allowed to provide that information to the system. Wow, that could be an absolute game changer for healthcare and us as individuals, and also for us to get those personal plans and realize that actually we've been conned for many years of pharmaceutical prices, or not having the ability to get the medication or the drugs that we actually need and will actually 100% work for us, instead giving us nonsense that can have many other side effects or symptoms or create other problems, or just because the contracting mechanism said that we have to have this brand today or this brand next week. They may be labeled as the same kind of drug, but they have so many different compounds to them that make them so much of a difference. And for those that have gone through cancer and maybe on long-term medication will know exactly what I mean. I've been privy to it the last few years of going, why are you providing her this medication this month, but next month is a different brand and they have different side effects? Now I've cottoned on to finding the direct source of the drugs, to ask them every month, where are you sending these today? They tell me, I go to that pharmacy and do a prescription from that pharmacy. I either get it delivered or I pick it up, and it is the specific one that I'm after because of all the research that we've done and because of the less side effects. Why does everyone not have that kind of access or that opportunity? And this, in terms of the genome analysis, is exactly what allows us to be able to do this. Now look at this. This is using Avalanche testnet, for example. Some examples here of the different blockchains that are being used as what they call biosample explorers. Sorry. This is phenomenal, guys. Absolutely phenomenal that you could get a significant amount of information from this. Opening up the doors to anything and everything that you could possibly think of. You think about medical diagnosis, drug response or risk screening, the aspect of being able to find unique plans for yourself. Could be dietary, it could be medical, it could be drug related. That is incredible. And I really wanted to bring this video to everyone's attention, guys, because I think not just from an investments perspective of how exciting things like Ethereum are for the future or the capabilities of blockchain, there are multiple chains that will start adopting this kind of service or this ability, or at least the companies like Genomics, like Genomes.io, for example, utilizing blockchain more and more. They may not go for Ethereum straight away because maybe it's too pricey to utilize the token, or they find some other ones that are faster. This is so early as an adoptive process. Yes, the technology has been there for some time. The ability of it has been there for some time, but the removal of this, the middleman aspects, the cost that's associated to the brokering of medical institutional drugs and medication research, we can remove all of this, guys, and have a completely new and more efficient world, and more efficient us, you and I, to have these great abilities to take this advantageous opportunity to better ourselves, to understand ourselves more, and fix ourselves. Can you imagine? Now, I'm not saying we're in that sphere right now yet of coding DNA, but we can certainly understand things of an earlier stages, or anticipating certain things that they could easily now say to us with this, to say there is a X percentage that this will happen to you, or this is going to happen to you. Maybe even within a potential age frame, who knows? But what's also interesting, if you think of chains like Filecoin, this DNA data can range from anything around like 18 gigabytes all the way up to 100 gigabytes of data. I didn't even think about the concept of our DNA as a data storage. Data as in like putting my DNA on a micro SD card of a 1 terabyte card, for example, and it's actually held in there. It's almost like they could upload my consciousness, or at least my DNA structure, to a robot in the future, add my consciousness, and I could live forever. Who knows? But this is phenomenal. It's a complete eye-opener to me. As I said, it's all about sometimes meeting random people at random times, and it's got my mind clicking that this is another robust opportunity of investment. It's one of those things where it's so early. Yes, 1 or 2 chains are being used, like Hyperledger, which is not publicly available to obviously invest in, which is really annoying because it's ultimately probably one, if not the biggest in the world there is. But that aside, it opens the door for us to be ready, to be open to the possibilities that this is a real thing, which it is, but potentially chains can onboard this kind of service, this opportunity to provide the service to companies like the ones we've mentioned, to facilitate the transactions per second, the data, the processing, the validating, the utilization with AI to screen, to analyze, to provide results at a level we've never seen before. The monetary value is there, the technology is there. Now it's just down to us to keep an eye on this. Before we end this video, guys, I'll do a very quick recap on Ethereum in general. And then I'll probably do a few more videos in the coming days because there's a lot to talk about with digital ID. We've also got a number of projects that we cover on this channel, as well as many that you may want us to do as well around the digital ID principles. But Ethereum at this moment in time, I'll just switch to the chart screen, apologies. Just realize I'm still talking on the page. You've got a current price point of $4,300 as a recording. Wow, yeah, as my story, I think I bought it for £75 back in 2020. It was like down here somewhere. It was ludicrous. And those days are so far gone. It's unbelievable. Even in the bear markets, we still came down to around an £800 price point. Absolutely crazy. But in the previous bull market back here in 2021, we hit a high, I think, of around 4,800. So we're still not at that level yet, guys. People are excited because like I've said in recent videos, I think the anticipation of the bull run is coming in the months ahead. We are getting ready for it. maybe some more sideways trading over the next maybe few weeks, month or so. But when that RTGS system kicks in, the new financial system kicks in around the world, other things like interest rates coming down more, inflation hopefully coming down more disposable cash is available. And when the hype starts kicking in, guys, the money will be pouring into stocks and crypto once more, like more so than maybe ever before. There's a mass adoption criteria that we're in now. More people have access, people have ability to have easy access to crypto wallets, building their portfolios for a better future, which is why I think Ethereum easily in these upcoming bull markets could potentially smash through this 6,000 fib level that we had drawn in a previous chart. Maybe up to the longer term fib levels of at least 7.5. People always say, there's videos out there saying 10, 50. Absolutely, 10 can be possible. That's around this sort of region, kind of confirmed on 2 levels of fib levels here. But we need a big, massive bolstering of adoption at an enterprise level for sure. Will that happen in this year? I don't know. But I do believe that in 2030 and beyond, we will definitely see those kind of numbers. Who knows? It could get way beyond the 20,000 mark. I remember the Beer Boy videos back in the day of it's going to be 50 grand, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe not that cycle, but certainly in the future, it can definitely get to those levels. On a performance indicator perspective, it's doing phenomenally well throughout the whole year, the year to date, 12-month marker, the weekly, the 3 months. It's all in green, guys. Just bear that in mind if you are new to Ethereum or you're looking to take positions. It's not financial advice, of course, but we are in that upward trend at the moment. The RSIs are fairly mid-high. It may be worth, again, not financial advice, but from my personal opinion, in terms of me potentially buying Ethereum back again, is for me to wait for those lower RSI regions, perhaps a pullback to see if we retest. But in all honesty, I don't really focus too much on Ethereum as such as I used to. I sold Ethereum off a long time ago, but I'm very intrigued from my principle of saying, well, where do I think Ethereum could go in this bull run? I'm not convinced as of yet. If I was buying back down here at 1,000, happy days. But as its current price point, even if we were to get to say 7,000 odd, for me personally, the percentage increase isn't enough for me to be excited about. But let's see. I could start thinking again more long term with Ethereum. Just go, do you know what? I'll buy some more now. I'm going to leave it there for 20 years and see what happens. But let us know your thoughts and opinions on Ethereum, guys. Your thoughts and opinions on this genome principle. Go and do your research on this. I think it's absolutely incredible what is available to us right now. Yes, it may be slightly costly in some instances, but actually, in some instances, I tend to sometimes look at like cost versus health, and I always try and put health first. But over time, these will become cheaper, more easily accessible, maybe even through our healthcare services. Who knows? But guys, this is a great opportunity for blockchain and the further integrations of AI for sure. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed and learned something. We'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.